Priestley also has Berling point this out. Well, we've several hundred young women there at the factory, and they keep changing. In other words, the job isn't enough to keep them in sufficient funds, and therefore they have to keep looking for work, or they get sacked, or they get ill. They are intensely vulnerable. And Eva is like Eve. She represents every woman who works in these kinds of factories. There is always a view in any society that those who are not paid well and are poor remain treated this way because they're not well educated enough, they do not work hard enough, they do not deserve more. And Priestley wants to get rid of this idea quickly. In the capitalist system, he's saying, you can be a good worker, you can be ready for promotion as Eva was, and you can still get sacked, you can still lose your job because everything is arranged against you. You have no power, but your employer has all the power. He makes this point even more forcefully by getting Berling to describe Eva this way. So even in his own opinion, she is an excellent asset to his business, yet he's still going to fire her. On stage, we're invited to contrast the opulence of the dining room table and what all the guests are wearing to this idea that Eva and her colleagues would get a 12% rise in wages. Although this sounds like a massive rise in wages, another way of looking at this is the difference between what they're paid and what a living wage would be. We see on several occasions during the play that those on strike have no savings. In other words, they only get enough money to spend each week and each month, and they are 12% short. In other words, they're always struggling for money. And this is the Berling's fault. It's not the workers' fault. It's not Eva's fault. Eric points out that women like Eva can't better themselves because they can't get work somewhere else, because all the other capitalists, all the other rich people, are offering the same sorts of wages. In other words, once you're poor, you're really trapped. Even if you keep your job, it's not enough, and you can't find a way to get more. Priestley also uses Eva to expose the values of capitalism and the hypocrisy of capitalism. As Eric points out, why shouldn't they try for higher wages? We try for the highest possible prices. In other words, if the capitalist system was fair, employers could try and make as much money as possible out of customers, but workers would also be able to try to make a decent wage from their employers. But workers have less power, and therefore they don't. There are, of course, no unions that Eva and her fellow workers can go to, and Priestley is indirectly here using Eva to justify the need for unions. Together, employees have far more bargaining power than individually.